Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are you all doing? Thank you all so much for tuning in. Wanted to do an update live stream on the case of Nolan Wells since we have been covering that. Good morning, you guys. Come on in and hit the like button. Come on in and hit the like button. How you all doing? It's a little early, but I'm in between jobs, so we're trying, we're looking. We're applying. We're trying to get back on pace. In the meantime, we have some updates to bring regarding the matter. There was a couple of videos I wanted to watch because I found this interesting that, and I'm not very familiar with Judge Mathis, but I found his feedback to be very interesting. So we're going to get into this. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. The like button tells YouTube that this video is popular, you want to watch it, and you want to keep it in an algorithm. It is free to do, and it will definitely help to support the channel and get it growing. Um, and I appreciate all of you all for the support. Thank you guys so much for the financial support as well. Ways to support the channel, scrolling down below for Cash App and Zelle. Supers, memberships, all those things, they do help. The little jewels, they all help. It all helps. But hitting the like button, subscribing to the Lady Luck Club and the Lady Luck Club with Sweet Tea is free to do. After this, we're gonna have our first live stream strictly to the second channel, as well as to X and Instagram regarding this David murder case. He's a singer who took the life of a 14-year-old girl, and was having a whole relationship with this child. And so, it is horrific. So it's a lot of evil things going on in the world. Um, so make sure you guys are praying over your kids. They get ready to go back to school. Ask God to protect them and keep them safe because there are some crazy, sick, demented, evil, twisted people in the world. And it's just horrible, horrible what happened to the little girl. And this Nolan Wells case it has to be one of the most confusing cases I've ever even reported on myself. I just good grief. If we could all read minds, I guess this wouldn't be a situation, but it is. So I wanted to
Welcome back to the
get started first with this is live now Fox. I know there are several other reporters covering this. They also have Nancy Grace on it. She's very exciting. I love her style of delivery. I gotta say, I admit it. So I did get the chance. If you haven't seen Nancy Grace's coverage on this, she asks questions, reasonable questions, asks questions about statements about the autopsy. Well, this independent autopsy that was done. Now you have Law and Crime on this, of course, several news outlets, and then everybody on YouTube. So what I will not do is make this about race because this young man lost his life, and I want the evidence to show me what happened. So the main thing would be, of course, the initial autopsy by the ME. That is going to tell you a lot of the, manner of death, the cause, and that's the key right now. So, since there is a grand jury that has been already assigned, I don't believe they selected the jurors yet. The evidence will be going before a grand jury, and the grand jury will determine if criminal charges are warranted. What the grand jury does have is subpoena power. So they will be able to subpoena witnesses, get depositions, and get evidence. And that's exactly what you want. You want that independent review of the evidence from the investigation to go to the grand jury as opposed to the prosecutor just filing charges and then the case isn't strong. Does that make sense? Hit the four. The grand jury gives that impartial, neutral review with the ability to get subpoenas out for additional evidence or additional testimony to have people come in to testify, and then can determine from that point whether the case has merit to be able to move towards an indictment. And I think that's as neutral and as fair as it can get with this case, as opposed to it being from one side or the other side or the family side. Just get the grand jury, right? So shout out to all of you all tuning in. We're gonna get into this. I see you, Mindy. Shout out to the mods. How y'all doing? Juju, shout out to all the mods, Realtor. If you're listening at work, you keep your headphones in and we're gonna dive into this. We got a day today. And then after the last live stream I have scheduled, yeah, I gotta go outside and cut some grass. So yeah, school's about to start Monday for my kids. I don't know about you all, but in my area, school starts back on Monday. Good child. So my son and I are gonna be cutting grass. We got a child. It's like a jungle out there. Can't make this up. All right. You haven't slept? Oh no. Juju, you gotta get some rest. You gotta get some rest. Please get some rest. We have the greatest mods on YouTube right here in the Lady Luck Club. But I always tell you all to get rest. Please get rest. Take care of your family. Take care of yourself first. This case is getting so confusing now that mother is suing the kids. She went out lawsuits on what? Oh my God. Are you serious? I was just looking at this videos and stuff last night. When did the lawsuit drop? Or is she putting out an intent to sue? You can't make this up. Nolan family hits 5 social media giants with subpoenas after concerns about deleted content. Well, that's to be expected. I mean, if they're saying that there's deleted content, yeah, you subpoena the social media because they have backup servers. And that's one of the things I tell you guys all the time. Just because you think you're deleting something off the internet doesn't mean that you're actually deleting it. You might be removing it from, your phone, maybe putting it in the waste bin, but see, you got the social media or the phone company on their end, they have servers where this stuff can be retrieved. So each company has their own, policy on how long they store data. But I don't know any major social media company that doesn't store data for at least 6 months. I could be wrong because I'm not on all social media platforms. But the major ones typically will have data stored for a minimum of 6 months. So even if you're going back to a minimum of 90 days, this still occurred within the last month. This was back on July 4th or something like that. So it hasn't even been a full month. So that's kind of to be expected. But her suing the kids, I don't know. Why not just have the jury subpoena them for deposition? They're suing. What the heck is going on? All right, let me put on some music because it's real quiet up in here. Y'all know I need some background music. Okay. Juju said number 4. Juju, go to bed. Hey, Tammy. Juju, please go to bed. Go get some rest, okay? It'll be all right. Go get you some rest, Juju. Go take a nap, okay? Just take care of yourself and rest. We'll be good. I watched the David documentary. It's awful. Yes, that dude is awful. I've never even heard of him until this happened. I was like, who is this singer? What? Oh, what he did was just Let's see. Juju number 4. Thank y'all so much. Y'all hit that like button. I'm trying to see, Mindy, when did this lawsuit drop? My kids start 20th. That is too early. Of August? Mine's go back Monday. I was like, this can't be real. No, it's real. I didn't think they had much of a summer. I'm trying to figure out where's this lawsuit. Yeah, I'm questioning the motive of the mother. It would be okay for now. You sure? Juju? Listen, it was an intent to sue. Okay, let me see. Oh man, that's something else. Was that dropped this morning? Oh wow. Oh wow. Nolan Wells' mother files petition to open estate and prepare for lawsuit. Christine Wansley, mother of 18-year-old Nolan Wells, has filed a petition in Jackson County Chancery Court to be appointed administrator of Nolan's estate, a move that would give her authority to file a wrongful death lawsuit if someone is found responsible for his death. Okay. So she hasn't filed the actual lawsuit for that. She's filing to become guardian of the estate, to be able to make these types of legal decisions on his behalf. So, I mean, that that would be like a backup if the grand jury decided to not depose all of the witnesses there. But they have a grand jury that they can just request to get a deposition from all of the people there. Now you get them on the oath as opposed to them just talking to the police. Now they're, you know, summoned to come to testify before the grand jury. And in that way, the prosecutor can, ask questions, cross examine, however, well, they can ask questions and then get their testimony under oath now. Because these kids, if they understand anything about the law, what they know not to do is to go in and perjure themselves. So I think that would be a much more initial step, like a more smarter initial step, initial step to take. Because who knows how long this is going to take for her to become guardian of his estate. I wonder, can you expedite a request like that? Is there an emergency petition you can file to speed that up? Because that might take just as long as the day going grand jury to just subpoena them. According to court filings, the estate's only anticipated assets would be claims for damages resulting from the circumstances surrounding his death. They didn't include the fundraiser. They raised money. That wouldn't be a part of his estate. Because Tyler Perry paid for the funeral. Colin Kaepernick paid for the independent autopsy. So the funds that they raised for that, wouldn't that just go to an estate? What's the name of the account you established with the court? This is new for me. So Chancery Court is where you go for, like, D's, trust, LLCs, estates. This is so weird. Check your DMs, okay. I was just reading this stuff last night and just putting videos out to go over that I wanted to cover. Oh my God. I'm just like, girl. Okay. Which, as much as I can't stand Brandon Tatum, this post came from his thing. Hold on a second. All right. I'm gonna finish reading this right quick because I'm just trying to understand myself. Uh so they're basically setting up this estate, which is more of a reason why I'm confused as to why the money that was raised would not automatically go to this estate. They're saying this estate is going to be designated for potential damages that they could claim if they were to sue. And they would only sue, naturally, if the grand jury indicted somebody. So why not have the grand jury subpoena them, have them come in for a deposition? And even if you wanted to just become guardian of an estate, it shouldn't be strictly for the purposes of claiming damages from a lawsuit. It should be, okay, here's the estate where we put money from the fundraisers, any other accounts we set up for him for college, any valuable property, possessions, his cars, stuff like that. Put all of that, any land he had, any, a house, whatever. I'm just throwing things out there. Anything he had that was of value, put that under the guardianship, under the estate, and they become guardian of that estate. That way, it's simply established to be there for whatever in the future. Let's say you want to, give the estate down to the kids or something like that, like to the other siblings. That's one thing. Take care of their education, start a scholarship fund or something like that. But if it's going to be strictly for claiming damages, you're not going to even try to do that until someone is indicted by the grand jury. So let the grand jury subpoena and depose them. That way you have a record of their testimony. And then whatever evidence was gathered from the investigation is admitted, and seen by the jury first, and then go from there. I mean, I think that the moves they're making here is like premature with that one, because it takes money to go to court and do all of that. So you got to pay for an attorney to go to chancery court. Is Ben Crump an estate attorney? What does he do? What's his specialty? Yeah, it had to be last night. How did I miss this? Anyone knows what type of attorney Ben Crump is? Gracias. He was hammered and couldn't swim. He could swim, but he shouldn't have been drunk. I mean, he shouldn't have been drinking. Oh, none of them should have been. They all under 21. Realtor says, oh, she says at Realtor. Yes, that was the post I just sent. Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, she went, and that's what I'm saying. Even if she goes to chancery court, that's fine. But if you're going in to say, hey, Your Honor, we want to establish some sort of guardianship or an estate, rather, but we're only going to have this set up in the event someone gets indicted, and then we can file a wrongful death lawsuit. Someone has to be indicted first. So what I'm saying is the best way to really get their testimony, get their statements, would be to have the grand jury subpoena them for depositions, and then that way you have a court of record at the very least. So that'll strengthen. Let's say someone does get indicted. Now you have that court of record, the transcript of their depositions too, to add to that. And then what happens with the money they raise? Does that money go straight to the estate as well? Because they raised money off of for his funeral and stuff, but the funeral was covered. But this is, I mean, it's nothing wrong with her establishing an estate, but the premise and an intent with that, it shouldn't be strictly for a wrongful death lawsuit. That's my point. If you're gonna get an estate established, go ahead and put all the money you've raised related to his death in that estate. So any other property he has is a value, like he had a car, right? So put his car there, like, any other scholarship funds or anything. He was in school. So whatever he had that was a value, all of that should go to the estate. And that way, I mean, I don't know. I would hate for it just to be where she's just, doing it only so she can sue, and then whatever she wins goes there. Put everything over there. That would be my only suggestion. Let's see. Like Ken is doing over Charlie's death, an opportunistic grifter. I would otherwise feel sorry for her loss. I feel sorry for her loss. I just think she's being heavily misguided. What type of attorney is Ben Crump? Does anyone know? Probate courts is where she should have to go, I believe. Yes. Well, if you have an established estate, but it could be just the name of the level of court she goes in her area. Chancery court can also handle. Let me see. This is crazy. I can't believe I missed this. I think Chancery Court does handle, depending on the state you're in. Yeah, Chancery Courts can handle estate matters, especially those involving trust, equitable disputes, or complex asset distribution, because they apply principles of fairness and equity rather than just strict legal rules. And since this is more like the way they're painting it to be is, oh, we're trying to make sure if anyone is to profit off of his death, we'll be able to sue them, and then that money is going to go straight to this estate. So we're suing on behalf of our deceased son, and his estate is kind of like that representation of him. I mean, no one should be making any money off of his death, but they raise money as well, so they need to probably put all that money in the estate too, just for the fairness. The Chancery Court is a court of equity. Unlike common law courts, which focus on legal rights and monetary damages, Chancery courts aim to deliver fair outcomes. I'm sorry, I didn't switch over to what I was reading. Fair outcomes and can order specific actions such as forcing a party to perform a contract specific performance or stopping a harmful act, injunction. Okay. So let's say someone gets indicted and then they go out and write a book or they do interviews and then they get money from that. Well, now you can get an injunction filed to say, hey, this person's out here making money off of my son's death, blah, blah, blah. So now we want to file an injunction to claim damages for that. And she would have to do a wrongful death. If he's not a civil attorney that can handle this stuff, though, let me scroll down. I'm sorry, I'm on the other tab too. Wait a minute. Ben Crump is a civil rights and personal injury attorney, focusing on catastrophic personal injury cases, including wrongful death lawsuits. So he would represent her. Wow. So Chancery Court, it depends. Where is she at? They're in Texas, right? Or Mississippi? They're in Mississippi. Let me look up probate court. I know probate courts handle LLCs too. Okay, probate court and estate matters. Okay, yes, in Mississippi, estate matters are handled by the Chancery Court, not a separate probate court. Mississippi does not have a dedicated probate court. Instead, all probate and estate administration cases are filed in the Chancery Court of the county where the deceased was domiciled at the time of death. So, wherever he was residing, that county or district is the court that she would have to go to, is my understanding. Not at the scene of the death, but where he was domiciled at the time of death. But if he permanently resided with his parents, like his permanent address was still with his parents, and he was temporarily like staying on campus or something like that, then the domicile would be the parents' home. Chancery Court is a court of equity jurisdiction that handles divorces, guardianships, land disputes, and other civil matters, but it has original jurisdiction over all probate and estate matters under Mississippi Code annotated Title 91. So that's that. So I'm assuming he's gonna represent her. Got that? What's going on? He's gonna represent her in this too. So he's gonna represent her in the Chancery Court for the estate and in any wrongful death lawsuit. That's what I'm getting. Because I mean, otherwise he would. Why wouldn't he tell her, "Hey, okay, we can do an estate, but understand, like, is it because one of the friends did the interview with Brandon Tatum? Because that's the only thing I can think of. I as far as like someone making money off of his death would be through, like someone writes a book or they go out and start doing interviews and stuff like that. The question is, did Brandon Tatum pay this boy to do an interview? Did he make money from that? That would be my question. Man, this is something else. Too early for me too. Oh man. Yeah, oh my God. This is something else. Yeah, being in between jobs, I get to get up and do this a little earlier now. Officer Tatum knew about it. He knew about the intent to sue. I don't know, Monica. That's what I'm saying. If you got a wrongful death lawsuit, you still gotta prove that person caused that death. And then how do you prove that, they intentionally caused it? That's the whole thing. How do you know they intentionally caused? Like, you have to meet that parameter. Because otherwise it could be defamatory. Does it make sense? So if you say, let me pull this up so y'all can understand what I mean. And why I keep saying this is, it's never wrong getting the estate. The idea that you're going to sue for wrongful death, that to me is premature. Because you have to prove that intent. And you're talking about in a civil matter, where the burden is a preponderance. You can't just go in saying, this child killed my son and now they got to pay me damages. You got to actually be able to show that, because otherwise you're accusing them of a crime that warrants prison time. So let's pull this up right quick. Wow, this is certainly not what I planned on going over today. Who knew? To file a wrongful death lawsuit, you must establish negligence or wrongdoing, demonstrate eligibility to file, gather necessary evidence, and understand the types of damages you can claim. So you got to establish negligence or wrongdoing. A wrongful death lawsuit arises when an individual dies due to another party's negligence, recklessness, or intentional act. See, you got to have some intent. Y'all see that? So if you say this person took somebody's life, right? And they knew what they were doing and they acted reckless and they did this intentionally. It wasn't by accident. You can't claim damages if it's an accidental death. So you have to prove that it was intentionally done and that they intentionally were negligent and reckless. This can include incidents like car accidents, medical malpractice, workplace accidents, or defective products. The plaintiff must prove the defendant had a duty of care, breached that duty, and that the breach directly caused the death. That here, this part here, breached that duty. You have to prove that these kids breached some duty of care, that they were negligent, reckless, or that it was intentional. How is that going to be done? Eligibility to file. Typically, immediate family members such as spouses, children, or parents have the legal right to file a wrongful death claim. In some cases, the executor or representative of the deceased estate may file on behalf of all beneficiaries. So that's what the mother's trying to do. She's definitely trying to get the estate established to be able to do that. It's not illegal. It's just, I think she is moving prematurely. And she definitely should want the deposition so you can read over the depositions. These are statements made under oath by the grand jury where, if it be any negligence, recklessness, or intentional acts, that probably will become known in any depositions for the grand jury. Does that make sense? So if they go to the court and they get subpoenaed, they get summoned to court, and they got to give, testimony, present testimony before the grand jury. If they're asked any questions around negligence, recklessness, intentional acts, or some sort of duty of care, something to that extent, they were all 18. So, and they answer questions to where it results in this being the case with negligence, recklessness. Somebody did something intentional. They knew he was choking and they didn't give him CPR. Something like that, as an example, right? You would want them to say that under oath. You would want that to come out before the grand jury, not trying to pull that out of them in a civil matter, and then they go to testify in a civil case, and they don't give any real responses or anything. Like, this is why I'm saying it's premature. Let the grand jury get it out of them. And then that way, there's a higher penalty to pay if you go and perjure yourself in front of a grand jury. In a civil matter, you can't go to court for not testifying. You can't make this up, man. Oh man. Gathering evidence. Strong evidence is crucial for a successful claim. So if they have an attorney, the attorney more than likely is going to gather evidence through testimony. And what Ben Crump is doing is working with the prosecutors or the investigators. He's got his own independent autopsy that came back inconclusive. So he will still need the the ME autopsy report. So, of course, the witness statements, medical records. So he definitely needs the ME autopsy because the independent didn't say anything that was, definitive. It doesn't point to recklessness or negligence based on the second independent autopsy. Then, of course, funeral, burial expenses, financial records. They raised money. So how do you can't say, well, we can't afford to pay for XYZ when they raised enough money to do that, and they had a benefactor that paid for the funeral. So, types of damage. Compensation in a wrongful death lawsuit can cover various damages, including medical expenses, funeral and burial costs, which was covered for them. Who knows if they had lost income, but they raised money. They had a GoFundMe, right? How much did GoFundMe raise? Hey, Gil. How you doing, honey? Oh, Gil, I'm so glad you're here. Just came to say hi. Oh, shout out to Gil, you all. There's a criminal defense attorney in the house. How you doing? How you doing? Oh yeah, I told my boys, if you can't tread water, you cannot swim. So I've been teaching my kids for a while. But I already told them, do not think you're going. They try to go to the wave pool and stuff like that when we go to water parks. And it's like, what you doing? Y'all going out there in the deep end? You can't tread water. Put a life vest on. I still make my youngest son wear a life vest, and he taller and bigger than me. You cannot tread water. Put the life vest on, child. I personally like watching LLC make fun of Candy more than anything else, but I like she comment on a variety of things. Oh, thank you. You know, because the Candy asses will swear I talk about nothing else. But I do like true crime. I do like, just kind of solving things. And it sucks that this, she lost her son like this. I have a soon to be 18-year-old son. So I cannot imagine losing a child. I think I would be worse when it came to, my demeanor, my grieving process. Oh man. I would reshift the gravitational pull of this planet. Y'all, the Earth will be skyrocketing towards Mars, okay? Everything will be thrown off balance. All the ocean's currents will be going upside down. Like, what did Lady Luck Club do? She messed up the Earth. Somebody did something to my kids. I'm tearing this planet up. All the volcanoes unleashing at once. No, it's gonna be madness. God. Oh man. All dirty money. Scott, how you doing, Raven? Let's see. Well, I would love to work with her, and she definitely seems more than qualified. But my overhead is ridiculous for the time being. I hear you. I hear you. And this the thing is with this case here is like, I think if anything, it's gonna get scrutinized if you're talking about we can't afford something. Like, they can't say that. You don't know how much they raised in their GoFundMe. I'm sure they closed it once Tyler Perry said he would pay for the funeral, right? Because I personally, I would. I wouldn't keep fundraising knowing that we got a billionaire that's saying he's gonna pay for my, pay for a funeral. I cannot imagine losing my son. I just can't. And I think that's the thing too. When the parents are going through this and they're grieving, this is a child they've lost, they loved. It's easy to be misguided. Let me put it like that. Because I don't want to quickly just shun the parents, especially the mother. It is so easy to be misguided when you're vulnerable and you're grieving over the loss of your child. I can't tell you all how exactly I would act, but I know I would be doing a lot of irrational things. And when you're hurting, when you're confused, and you don't know what's happened to your child, and your child turned up dead and washed ashore somewhere like a piece of trash, a boat wreckage. Yeah, you're pretty much on fire to scorch earth. He'll have no fury like a woman scorned. Now I don't really get like a vibe anything off the father. I haven't really like paid much attention to him, but the mother, I think she's kind of like being pulled in so many directions, and it comes off like she deep down is like, I don't want to have to deal with all of this, but I want to do whatever it takes to get the truth out of people. And it takes a little bit of wisdom to be able to kind of navigate it, legally speaking, like from a legal stance. Her approach to this is, let me just sue any and everybody. She is probably acting prematurely. I'll say that. Because I don't want to be insensitive to her grieving the loss of her son. And I'm sure the father's grieving as well. But even when she speaks, she comes off like she's not very confident in it. She's just kind of just saying things that she feels like needs to be said because she just wants to know what happened. And I just think it's horrible if if she's being manipulated. I think it's horrible because this isn't a smart decision to do right now. Let the grand jury do what they're going to do. That way, you got what essentially two investigations happening at the same time. You got this gathering of evidence for a potential wrongful death lawsuit, and then you have the grand jury investigation. And it's not like they got a PI or something, or people just kind of moving quietly behind the scenes. No, they got things going out in front of the media. Everything's kind of put out there in front of cameras. And all it's going to do is chase the people off you might need to get statements out of. I don't know. It's just crazy. Okay. So the procedural steps is consultation, investigation, filing a claim, negotiation, and litigation. More than likely, if it comes down to it, and let's say someone is indicted, this could land as a negotiation or a settlement, especially if the evidence is overwhelming. But you got to remember, this evidence is going to be overlapping. So whatever they gather, or no, whatever comes from the grand jury is going to be automatically a part of this case for the Silver matter. At some point, they will be completely overlapping each other. I was hoping that the second autopsy revealed a little bit more, but it didn't. Ooh, child. $788,390 raised of $850,000 target. Good God in heaven. Would y'all be mad at me if I started a GoFundMe? Like, just 25,000. Keep me covered for bills until I get something else. Would y'all be mad at that? $788,390 raised. They need to put that in the estate. Wow. Do a give, sing, go. I think I might do it. Man, it's times are hard. I see people out here donating almost $850,000. Oh my God. So since they don't even have to use, like they didn't have to use it for the funeral or anything, Tyler Perry paid for it. So that's money just sitting there. Angie, you say you wouldn't be mad? Oh man, thank you all. I'm asking legitimately because rent is due in like 2-3 days. Not even gonna lie, it's hard. It's tight right now. I'm tired of going through this. Oh man. They raised $788,390. Wow. They need to put that in the estate. It would be best for them to put that in the estate. And then, whatever Ben Crump charges them, that will come out of that will come out like a paycheck. If they're working, it should come out of their paycheck. But I wouldn't put any of that money to any attorney's fees. I wouldn't, because the question is, if I tell you you're not promised any of this money from $850,000, would you be doing this? Would you be here giving us this level of guidance and all this stuff, telling us to do this, and this? If Ben Crump does not get a dime of that gift, sing, go, whatever that is, the question then reasonably one could ask is, would he be doing any of this stuff? Put all of it in the estate. Say, we're not paying you out of that money. If you charge us, we're not going to pay you out of that. No, we'll keep working and pay you from our pockets, but we're not paying you out of that. No. Because I'm just curious. I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions. And like I said, I'm not overly familiar with Ben Crump, but I'm just asking questions. I think that's the true test to see if he's doing this genuinely. Since he has he practiced law, this specialty where he can cover these cases. He can do both. He can help them with the estate and the wrongful death lawsuit. So this is, yeah. Tell him, hey, you're not getting that money now. No, no, we're not paying you from that. Let's see what happens. I want to see his live reaction on that one. All right, y'all. Let's get to the news. Wow. So now we all understand what's to happen with this open estate and wrongful death lawsuit that's coming. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm reading. According to court filings, the estate's only anticipated assets will be claims for damages resulting from the circumstances surrounding his death. If approved, Wansley would have legal authority to sue on Nolan's behalf should liability be established, which it can't be established till someone actually gets indicted. The petition notes, because who's she gonna see, either sue either the kids or the boat company or the manufacturer of the boat. Like when they say liability being established, that's what you're doing. You have to actually be able to show evidence to point towards, the responsible party. So who would the responsible party be other than the kids? Either the boat company, the manufacturer of the boat owner, is it going to be the 911 dispatch caller? I mean, who else are you pointing liability to here? If it was a private boat, wasn't the boat privately owned by one of the kids or the kids' parents or something like that? I'm curious about that too. I do believe the boat was owned by one of the kids, his grandfather, something like that, right? Or his father. So what is she going to sue that person? Because technically you could, I mean, if the kid just drove the boat out there, it's not like his death was caused by a boat crash. So you're going to have to show that the owner of the boat somehow was negligent, and it would have to come down to like the repairs or something. And then the lack of the repairs being done caused his death. People don't understand. That's not always an easy thing to connect for a wrongful death lawsuit. It's not always an easy case to prove, because you got to actually be able to prove that there was some negligence or recklessness or it was intentional. How do you prove that against the boat owner or the driver of the boat if you can't connect the sinking, like when the boy called and said the boat sinking, right? Did the sinking cause the death of Nolan Wells? See, that's the question you got to ask. And that's what's going to be, required for you to meet that in this lawsuit, in this wrongful death lawsuit. What was the actual factor that caused or led to the death of Nolan Wells? They're going to have evidence that will be sufficient to point to that liability. Right now, they're giving conflicting stories. Even if, let's say that's true, the conflicting stories didn't lead to his death. Something else led to his death. Some event occurred that led to his death. What was that event? Was it a wire that popped and sliced him in the throat? Like what? That's what they have to, and this is why it's so premature for them to be doing this right now. It's almost like a scare tactic. You don't need to do that. You could just get the grand jury to subpoena them. And they were all drinking. So it could have been something he drunk and he didn't eat. He was vomiting, got sick, could have had food poisoning. I mean, exactly. The autopsy results are not out. So, like I said, I think she's been misguided a little bit to act prematurely, and it's going to end up being counterintuitive with what the grand jury should be doing. I would wait for them, because I would rather the kids get subpoenaed, go in, testify. If they tell the truth, they shouldn't have anything to worry about. They can give their testimony under oath. And the grand jury hears that, reviews all the evidence, and does it the right way. Because even if there's evidence gathered, who's going to gather the evidence for the wrongful death lawsuit? Ben Crump is an attorney. He's not an investigator. So they would have to have a PI, a private investigator. Yeah, and then his autopsy, the second, well, the not his, but the independent autopsy came back undetermined. There's no cause of death. It was undetermined. So if she really wanted, like, okay, let me just ensure that I have a solid case, she's gonna have to wait for the grand jury. She's gonna have to let the grand jury subpoena them and have them come in to testify. And then you use their testimony to help establish, at the very least, a baseline. But you got to have a liable, responsible party in this. Who is that? The driver of the boat? The owner of the boat? Did somebody go out and put a hole in the boat? Like, you got to be able to show what really happened that led to his death. Right now, they don't have enough evidence to do that. And that's why you got a grand jury. This is crazy. Wow. So that I'm sorry. According to the petition was signed in Jackson County Chancery Court on the same day as Nolan's funeral. So they already did the petition on the day of the funeral. Jesus. Attorney Ben Crump, working with Ridgeland law firm Carol Bufkin, PLLC, is representing the estate. Because, yeah, of course. Then guess what? He can now get attorney's fees covered from the estate by representing it. Now y'all see why I said that they should tell him, no, we're not paying you out that money. We're going to pay you out of our paycheck. Now y'all see why. Now you get the true intent. How would he feel if he send them an invoice for services and then they say, oh, okay, cool. We're going to send you, like, payment installments. We need a payment plan. He's like, no, just pay me out the estate. No. No one gets a dime of that money. Not even you. I wonder if he would still represent him. Oh, Lord. The estate has also sent preservation notices to friends, family, and entities connected to the investigation, ordering them to safeguard all evidence, including electronic data, in case litigation arises. They should be doing that anyway for the grand jury. Nolan disappeared July 4th, 26, after traveling by boat with friends to Horn Island, Mississippi for 4th of July celebrations. His phone and keys remained on the boat, and his body was found 2 days later along the island shoreline near his last known location. Authorities have said they believe he drowned, but his family disputes that conclusion and is conducting its own investigation that still came back undetermined. No official cause of death has been released. And then the ME autopsy report is under seal because a grand jury needs to see it first. Wansley has also filed subpoenas for social media companies seeking digital data from Nolan's accounts to help reconstruct his final hours. At the funeral, Al Sharpton and filmmaker Tyler Perry each offered $50,000 for information, leading to an arrest and conviction. Goodness gracious. We got 2 bounties. Is that each? 50,000 each. The way I'm reading this, that's 50 each. So Al Sharpton is donating 50. Tyler Perry giving up 50. Wow. The court-appointed administrator role is the first formal legal step toward a potential wrongful death lawsuit, with the estate's sole asset being any damages claimed tied to Nolan's death. Wow. Well, you can't make this up. All right, now we got some updates on videos. Hit the 4 when you guys can see in here. Let's go.
FBI is investigating threats against the people who are with Nolan Wells in the hours before the Mississippi teen vanished and was found dead. Wells, 18, disappeared
Boy,
July
oh,
4th
yeah.
after joining friends on a boat trip to Horn Island, a barrier island off Mississippi's
What
Gulf
is it?
Coast. Search crews
They
scoured
use
the
them,
area for
Kelly.
2 days before a National Park Service ranger found his remains on the island's northwestern tip on July 6th. Wells' friends returned to the mainland that July afternoon without him, but Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter previously said investigators believe Wells chose to stay on the island. It wasn't
Yeah,
until
it's a bit
later that
premature.
night that his mother learned that he was missing from one of Wells' friends
think-
and reported it to authorities. Mississippi's Department of Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall said Wednesday that the FBI is investigating threats made against public officials, the people who were with Wells before he vanished, and their families.
Oh my God. So
Michelle Thomas is now joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Michelle, thank you so much.
So we've spoken about the FBI's role and involvement in criminal matters, dealing with the reporting on Charlie Kirk's case. This is something the FBI has the ability to do. But when it comes to these death threats, see, this is why I tell people don't do these death threats, because it muddies the waters. Now you got the FBI involved because of death threats. We saw that same thing happen with the Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony case. Both sides catching death threats. That's just, the judge was catching death threats, which is absolutely a no. That will automatically trigger the FBI when the judge is catching death threats. Absolutely not. I don't care if you think that judge is corrupt until kingdom come. Don't send death threats. I reported on corrupt judges that were removed from the bench. 2 so far have been removed. 1 state legislators trying to get her impeached because she's a federal judge. She decided to have some, shenanigans and coitus going on in her office with a police officer, and was married to a judge. God. And I sure did report on her and said she should be removed. I don't need to send a death threat her way for that to happen. People got to learn how to knock off these death threats. It's a cybercrime. And then you get the FBI involved, and then it looks even more one-sided as opposed to it being an investigation where it's done the right way. That way, if it's done the right way the first time, you don't have to keep going back and forth. And the idea of it being just simply about a race will be a moot point. It's about getting justice and finding out what happened. That's simple. So this is why you can't let things become racially motivated, but somehow it just ends up happening that way. It's ridiculous. Let the evidence take you where it takes you, and follow the money. That's what they always say. Follow the money and let the evidence take you where it takes you. But man, the death threats, all it's going to do is trigger the FBI to get involved. And then now it's just like, well, hurt people hurt other people. But don't lose your livelihood and liberty and freedom over it.
Thanks for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So we talk about this case. The FBI is now investigating threats connected to the case. So what kind of threats can become federal crimes, and why would the FBI get involved here?
Cybercrime.
Well, anytime there's a threat regarding anyone's person, placing them immediate harm, there's going to be an investigation. But here, they may also be looking for racially charged threats, given sort of the backdrop and what we've heard about in the public scrutiny, in the public eye, and with the backdrop and history of Mississippi. People are concerned about this case because of sort of the racial makeup and so forth. So if there are any kind of threats along those lines, there's going to be an investigation and possibly a federal one.
And when we talk about authorities, saying that witnesses, public officials, even family members have received some type of threat here or there, how can that affect an active criminal investigation that can be happening?
Well, any kind of law enforcement is going to follow any leads, and they're going to try to track any type of threat because they don't want there to be either witness intimidation or witness coercion. They want to make sure that they're able to preserve the evidence and witness testimony, and that persons with knowledge are able to come forward without feeling fearful. So it can taint an investigation and possibly a forthcoming trial if there are constant threats and people are afraid to come forward with the information needed to solve what happened to Nolan Wells.
And we saw the independent autopsy get released over the weekend. We still have a toxicology report, I believe, pending within the state of Mississippi. So it seems like there's still a lot out there that is inconclusive as of right now, and especially after Ben Crump and the independent autopsy that he released. What are we going to be watching for next?
So they're going to really try to piece this together, because what the independent autopsy said was that they cannot rule out any kind of foul play. It wasn't conclusive as to the manner and cause of death. That was still undetermined. But at the same time, it did not conclude that the death was accidental. And so therefore, there's going to continue to be an ongoing investigation. This information and evidence will be presented to a grand jury, and the grand jury will determine whether there's probable cause for a criminal trial, for there to be an indictment and a criminal trial to proceed.
Right. And when you see a cause of death listed as undetermined, from a legal standpoint, what does that mean for the case and the investigation moving forward?
That means that they cannot conclude decisively whether this death was a result of either natural causes or an accident in terms of the manner of the death or how he died. So did he die before he ended up in the ocean, or did he die from drowning, asphyxiation, or something like along those lines? And so that's the issue, is what Ben Crump and the family want to know is, what was the condition and state of Nolan Wells at the time that he was ultimately ended up in the water? Was he alive, or was he already deceased?
And how often does this happen in a case like this, where a family might not be satisfied with the determination from either the original autopsy or the current investigation as it happens, and they go and they get separate legal counsel, they go ahead and they get an independent autopsy? Is this something you see common in criminal investigations, or is this a rare occurrence here?
It's reasonably common, but it's really a case-by-case basis. Here, it just the facts really didn't make sense. The family was saying that Nolan Wells was a good swimmer. He was athletic. He wasn't one to just sort of go into the water or drift off by himself. And no one seemed to know anything. The witness sort of recounts of what occurred were inconsistent. And so when you have those types of things here, that raises a suspicion of foul play. And then there's going to be some sort of independent investigation or autopsy. So whenever the facts don't quite align and the circumstances are suspicious, then you're likely to see independent private autopsies occur.
All right, Michelle, final word. Anything you want to add before we let you go?
Well, this is still an investigation. So while the family deserves answers, the community deserves answers, this case is being tried in the court of public opinion, but we have to be careful to wait for the evidence and make sure that the evidence is presented, there's an indictment, and that the actual justice system plays out, and that those who are accountable, if any, should be held accountable.
And I think it is actually got another follow-up from that, because it is, and you saw Reverend Al Sharpton say that last week too, which is, hey, let's not rush to conclusion. We have to let the process play out here. But in the age of social media, when there's so much misinformation that's online, there's a lot of passion that's online, and there are a lot of people who put stuff out there that isn't true that's online too. What kind of problems does that create in a case like this when it is so high profile?
Well, it's social media along with artificial intelligence, because we've seen posts on social media showing depictions of Nolan Wells present and alive with a group of friends. We don't know whether those are real or not real. And so social media is essentially filling in the gaps for all of these unknown answered or questions that we have. However, we can't really judge the credibility or veracity of what we see on social media. So the jurors, whoever is ultimately selected, if there's a trial, they need to ensure that they haven't been tainted by all of the misinformation.
That's what sucks about this. It's so much misinformation. It's the same. It's like an auto repeat of all the cases I'm reporting on, from this to Charlie Kirk to Carmela Anthony and Austin Metcalf case to the David case with Celeste, young lady that was unalived in that matter. It's so much information from the public that is not accurate. It's just not. And it taints the jury selection. It taints what the jury is exposed to. That is not what you need when you want this to be done the right way. People say justice isn't fair, but you have to give it an opportunity to move forward through the court. We want things now. We want to know things right away. You know, no, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. And I understand exactly what she's saying. When the court of public opinion starts to overshadow the court of law, there's a problem. A big, 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 big problem. All the outside distractions between making it racially motivated to the death threats and the cyber crimes and the doxing and all this stuff, it just brings in more distractions and muddies the water. This happens, seems like now every single time we deal with something that becomes a high profile case. And it's like people aren't learning. So the same people that were decrying racism in, Carmelo Anthony's case are now doing it in Nolan Wells' case. It just never ends. And all it does is create this type of issue where you don't know what jury is going to be selected and what they've been exposed to, what they're potentially able to do if they are selected. I think yesterday, Mindy, didn't we establish the video that Candace leaked out was a part of evidence connected to that case? So that means that one of the members of media, members of the press that was in court, recorded something, got something out, and sent it to Candace Owens, of all people. And then she just showed it on her platform, not caring that she could be possibly interfering and obstructing justice. That's stupid like that. That stunt like that is not what you need. You want the jury to see that. And now everybody is seeing something that should not have been released to the public. And it's like the same thing here in this situation. I don't know how a wrongful death is supposed to go if you can't really pinpoint who should be held liable. Who's you gonna say, all y'all liable, and I'm just gonna sue all y'all? That's not gonna fly in court. It will be dead on arrival. That lawsuit needs to make sense. And right now it just doesn't. And I think it's premature. There's no wrong with setting up an estate. She can go do that all day. That's not illegal to go and establish an estate. But the moment you start fishing around for information that almost becomes counterintuitive to what the grand jury should be doing, you'll be doing more harm than good. And now it's like these kids are going to be catching it from both ends. Either they're going to be catching it from the grand jury, or they're going to be catching it from Nolan Wells' parents. And you don't want that, because what if they just school about to start again? These kids were 18, 19 years old. Nobody was over 21. So if they're all in college, let's assume that they're going back to school soon. So they're going back to whatever universities and institutions they go to go to school. They might not even want to come in and say anything at this point, because they're going to be scared for their life. Because yet people sending out death threats. How does that help get testimony out of them? Man, this is so ridiculous. It's like common sense stuff. People not understanding that
out there on social media.
Absolutely. Michelle Thomas, trial attorney. Thank you so much for your time here on Live Now from Fox, and we'll have you back on in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
A teen's mysterious death getting nationwide attention after attending a July 4th boat trip with friends and never returning home. Now,
hold on, let me go to this information, because I looked up what you were talking about. Saying I had to Google it because I wanted to read the information myself. It says here and I just put in Nolan Wells case, mother of friend reports calls routed to her chambers. In the ongoing investigation into the July 4, 2026 death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells, the mother of one of Wells's friends, Jackson County Chancery Judge Ashley Cole, has confirmed that calls from her family were being routed to her law chambers. So it was from her family, from her direct family. I don't know if that, because I don't think she could route all calls there. It has to come from her people or from her household, maybe. Now I do know she can't have everybody's calls routed there, so it had to be specifically her relatives, maybe her spouse and the kids, or any calls going to their phones or to their household phone. My godmother has done it before, where she had a call like her cell phone or her work cell phone was being routed to straight to her chambers. So her office number is different from her work cell number, but she would have her work cell number routed to her chambers if you couldn't get her on her work cell phone. Does that make sense? Now I don't know how this is set up because my godmother was a federal judge. I don't know how this is set up with her being a chancery judge. I'm thinking she just has like calls coming from the house and maybe her kids' spouse cell phones being routed there. I why? I mean, if they're calling directly for her, they're calling her. That's one thing. But it is true here. Let me see. But it would be from, it's just her family, from what I'm reading. Hold on. So, Jackson County Chancery Judge Ashley Cole, whose stepson was among the group of friends with Nolan Wells on Horn Island before Wells disappeared, says her family has been inundated with harassment and graphic death threats as the investigation into Wells' death continues to draw national attention. Wells was last seen alive July 4th at the massive multi-agency search by recovered Monday by a park ranger on the island. Cole shared screenshots Thursday that appeared to show dozens of threatening messages directed at her family, including explicit threats against her children, references to bombs, and messages promising violence. The images accompanied a statement announcing that her family would not be speaking to the media while the investigation remains ongoing. We have decided that we will not be speaking to the press at this time, Cole wrote. The media is not the appropriate forum to further elaborate on the facts of July 4th, 2026. We realize that the truth will not stop the calls for the death of our small children. Instead, Cole said her family is willing to communicate directly with civil rights attorney Ben Crump and Nolan's parents. So all her family's calls are being routed to her chambers because they're probably, I'm not even going to say probably, they are definitely listening. The FBI is definitely listening. See, this is what I mean. The FBI comes in when there's the harm of a threat of harm to be done to a judge. You cannot send death threats to a judge. That triggers the FBI to investigate it automatically. Then she's got to get all this extra, security and all this stuff around her and her kids. This is why these death threats are unnecessary. Good Lord. So as opposed to the FBI helping to resolve what occurred with Nolan Wells, they're solely in this because death threats to a judge triggered an investigation with the FBI. I wish they would have helped find out what happened with Nolan Wells, but they can't do that. Because now they got to focus on this stuff. Because there's no reason to send death threats. Money, time, and resources going towards, now having to investigate who's threatening the judge as opposed to it going towards finding out what happened with Nolan Wells. Hence my frustration. Because this is unnecessary. This gets nothing done. All it does is bring in the FBI to now have to say we can't have, people threatening judges. That's not necessary. It's not necessary, man. This is so crazy. So she can have her calls from her family. And I would assume her home phone, kid's cell phone, husband's cell phone routed to the chambers, but it's because they're being wired. They're being recorded. Now, all calls to a court, of course, you can get those calls. So, man, this is crazy. At least she's talking with Ben Crump and Nolan's parents. We will provide them with all the information known to us so their family can rest and properly mourn. She wrote, "We will also want to know what happened to Nolan. We will do everything within our power to assist Nolan's family in their quest for answers." The statement came one day before Trump civil rights leader Al Sharpton held a nationally televised press conference in New York City, calling for answers in Wells' death. Why were they in New York? Didn't this happen in Mississippi? What they doing in New York? They got the phone? Huh? I'm sorry, I wasn't on StreamYard. Okay, hold on. What's going on? No, what's going on? User, I've never my moms don't just go back and forth with people like that. They don't. I know my moms. I've had this same as my mom for a while, for at least a year. She told me to go watch a video, and I'd rather look up the information and I read it. So I don't know what. No, don't we gonna have to call? Don't call my mom's an idiot now. Don't do that. She was just telling me you might want to check that out. So as opposed to me watching the video, I just pulled up the information and read it. It clearly says here, calls from her family were being routed to her law chambers. She confirmed that. Coming from her family. I don't think she said anything out of pocket. We can we can disagree. She wasn't rude to you, user. She wasn't rude to you. You calling her names and stuff. Why are you doing that, man? Don't do that. Don't do that with my moms. If we're wrong, even when I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, I say, okay, I stand corrected. Let me correct that. But I would rather look the information up. She just simply told me you might want to watch Rim's video. I didn't see all the other comments, but she just said watch Rim's video. I said, let me look it up. And that's what I did. Why does that warrant name calling? We don't have to do that up in here. Yeah, we don't need the name calling, man. What hotline? I don't know anything about a hotline. I didn't see anything about a hotline. Maybe Rim misquoted it. I didn't see anything about a hotline. I didn't even watch his video because I would rather just read the information myself directly. This is why reading, we read here in the LLC. I don't know what video Rim watched or anything, but I prefer to pull up the information firsthand and read it. So here's the link to the article. Okay, I didn't see her comment about a hotline or anything because I'm on different tabs. So when I'm reading over here on this article, I don't see what's going on StreamYard, but this is why we looked it up because I rather look it up and be correct on it. And you guys got the link to the article there where we got the information from as a resource. So what the judges are permitted to do, and I can pull that up as well so that people can understand why she's doing this, is more than likely to have the FBI tap the calls because she's getting death threats. She's still a judge. She's a chancery court judge. She's still a judge. Isn't that worse than you gotta your job is to go to court and and go over cases and stuff like that, and you getting death threats. Like that is no way to live. Um, So yeah, the judges are entitled to protections regarding their address, phone number, stuff like that. It's typically not published. So that might be even more of a reason why, since she's getting death threats, her family's getting death threats. That's probably the main reason why the family's calls are being routed to her chambers. That way they can monitor those calls coming from her family. I don't know about any hotline. I hadn't heard anything about a hotline. So there is a level of protection that judges are granted regarding their, demographics, their address, phone numbers, stuff like that, house numbers, stuff like that is typically not even listed because of stuff like this. This is crazy. All right, y'all. Let's not threaten judges. It's not necessary. A woman is, ooh, child.
Mississippi grand jury will determine if criminal charges will be brought after the family's private autopsy couldn't rule out foul play in Nolan Wells' death.
There were 300 to 400 people.
Chicago. Why are they all over the place? Why are they from New York to Chicago? Why are they doing all this stuff all over the place? Aren't they in Mississippi? What's going on, Mel? Nigga B? Why are they in the Mississippi? They went from Mississippi. It's very down to threaten the judge. Exactly. So they were in New York City, now in Chicago. So they just traveling. What? When was the funeral? What was the funeral? Was it in Mississippi? When was this? Man, look, this was 3 days ago. I'm not traveling nowhere. Ain't doing no worldwide press. I'm gonna be at home crying my ass off. This is insane, man. I just really think he kind of. She looks like she's just spaced out. From one mother to another mother. This woman looks like she is spaced out. And sometimes it's best to be able to say, okay, me and my wife need some time. This kind of popped off from like week 1, where you had all this activity happening here. Man, this is something else. Imagine her being manipulated. Because they're traveling. They went to New York City. Now they're in Chicago. They ain't going to LA. And they're doing all these media press tours and stuff. That takes a toll on you. It might be best if she just like, look, I need 2 to 3 weeks of just none of this. Just let me go home and watch movies and just get my mind right. Or something. Look at my son's photos, his baby picture album. She just looks like she's not mentally here with us.
On Horns Island, you mean to tell me nobody saw anything?
Any parent that would be in this situation, you would do anything to find out what happened to your child.
Joining us now, Nancy Grace, former special prosecutor and host of Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. Nancy, Attorney Ben Crump there has a point. You mean no one saw anything? Where do you see this investigation, where things stand?
I've got a lot of problems with the investigation so far, but remember, we are seeing through a mirror darkly. We don't know all the evidence. There's been one state's autopsy, and that has not been released. The family sent the body of Nolan Wells for a second independent autopsy, and that autopsy says undetermined. This is what I do know, Griff. I know on the back of his head, the occipital bone back here, there is deep red subcutaneous tissue. It's not anywhere else. It is not pooling of the blood once he's died. The blood pools at the lowest point.
Y'all.
It's not that because it's only there. I'm curious, does that suggest a blow to the head? There are many accidental possibilities. When you look at the video out there are tons of boats. They're close together. Did he drink and drown in between one of those boats and nobody noticed? I don't know that. However, that deep reddening on the occipital bone is very disturbing to me. Also, you think, oh, he drowned, but we don't have the lungs. When the second autopsy got the body, the lungs and the throat were missing. Now, I understand, Griff, why they took the lungs to determine if he had drowned. But why was the neck missing? What about the interior of the throat sparked the initial medical examiner's concern? Was there some bruising on the neck? I don't know. So, right.
Oh, she's so passionate. For me, it's her delivery in this, man. She asks questions as she answers them. Candice, you could learn a thing or two.
Now, it could go in so many different directions. But let me tell you this, the call that the friends made when they were returning without Nolan, they say he wanted to stay and be with a friend girl he just met. She, Katie, says, no, he left with his friends. I got a problem right there. That's a conflict in the testimony. But when you listen to the call the other friends made, they called Seatow, S-E-A-T-O-W, and said, we're sinking. In this newly released sound, you can make out somebody saying, wake the F up. What does that mean? I'm not resting till I find out if that's real. Has it been doctored? And if it is real, who are they talking to?
There's so many questions that you raise, Nancy, and as someone who's investigated these things, you know which questions to ask. I want to take you back though, because that marking on the back of his head is not insignificant, as you rightfully point out, because also the size of it, right? It's like a 12x8. I mean, it's not a small clue in this. Expand on that a bit, if you will.
Yes, Mimi, that's perfect. Right there is showing exactly where the red.
Is she still on Fox? She is so intense. Y'all see her eyes wide open? Oh my goodness. Look, I'm not here for play.
Tissue is, and is subcutaneous under the skin. Now, as we all know, in an autopsy, the skin is pulled away from the body to look at the tissue underneath the skin. That's where the second medical examiner, doctor, found it. Many people are arguing it was a blow to the back of the head. Many people argue he fell, hit his head on the boat, and went over. Well, if that happened, didn't anybody see him? So it's going to boil down to witness testimony and what that neck truly reveals. Again, why did the first medical examiner keep that part of the body? It was not sent to the second autopsy. That raises my antenna. There's a lot of hate going on around this case. It's very hard to understand. Again, it could be accidental. It may not be. And we can't stop the investigation until we know. This young man was 18. You know how old my twins are? 18. And I would be lying on the front of the courthouse steps screaming for an answer till I got one.
Be sure to like and
Nancy Grace. Boy, she's intense. But I mean, she's at least saying neutral wise, you know, it could be an accident, it could not be. Who knows? But this is why this grand jury is imperative. Let the grand jury do what it's supposed to do. Because one thing is for sure. If any of these kids, including their parents, that includes the judge, is subpoenaed or summoned to testify before the grand jury, they cannot deny it. They will get collected if need be. They will be capious if they skip out on any subpoena or summons to go and testify before the grand jury. So they won't have a choice. And that's the best part about it. So if they get out, if they have to summon someone to come in and testify, they will go and find their ass and pick them up. So they have subpoena power. Bless God for that. In the silver matter, probably not. They might not come in and testify. There's like no penalty for that. But in this matter, in the criminal, in what is basically a criminal investigation, where the whole goal is to determine if there's enough evidence for a probable cause, not even to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, to file charges. They will not be able to get out of that summons. They will have to appear before court. Does that make sense? So that's the one thing. That's why I keep saying that the parents need to, as opposed to trying to do a whole separate sideline investigation, utilize the grand jury's investigation to your advantage. Because if they go out and start a lawsuit and say, yeah, go ahead and sue these people for wrongful death, then guess what you're going to do? You're going to come across a big brick wall. Because if you want someone to come in and get deposed in the civil matter and they say no, then what? But if the grand jury is encouraged to do that, or if it's imperative for the grand jury to get their testimony, they can't ignore that. That's what I'm saying.
Subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
I'm not for play. Woo!
It's a enhanced audio that's going viral right now by Nolan's friend that I want you to check out. Check your phone right quick. I want to get your take on it.
Okay, Mindy.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our village pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
Hey.
Yes. How far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down there.
That I did not know that existed. And if this is authentic radio transmission between the dispatcher and the caller, then certainly this turns it on its head. They're observing him injured, asking if he's dead. Whoever on that call, with the technology we have now and with interviews amongst the folks who were there, or the phone that the emergency call came from, the dispatcher has that number. Someone can get it. Then you'll go to the person who made the call and say, what did you see? This is real easy if that is the case. So we'll see what they do with this evidence. The fact that there's some audio from the dispatcher where the person calling asks, or in the background, one or the other, asks, oh my God, is he dead?
Thank you, Mindy.
So that's a whole new level of evidence that I'm interested in seeing where they go with that. And perhaps that's what the prosecutor may have all of this.
This is Judge. Well, he has a show called Judge Mathis. Was he a real judge? Was he a real judge? Yeah, he's a real judge. He had his own judge show. It was called Judge Mathis. Real judge. He was a real judge who served on Michigan's 36th District Court. He was a district court judge before becoming a television personality. Yep. He was a district court judge, so that's federal. He is indeed a real judge, my Lord. So he's saying this is his first time hearing this. How many more audio calls are out there? Because I think we played one last week when I did an update on this. And I had to slow it down to hear the stuff going on in the background. So he's just not hearing this a week later. Because I know I wasn't the only one listening to the audio and slowing it down to like 0.25 speed.
Evidence. The fact that there's some audio from the dispatcher where the person calling asks, or in the background, one or the other, asks, oh my God, is he dead? So that's a whole new level of evidence that I'm interested in seeing where they go with that. And perhaps that.
Guess what? Yeah, we have a grand jury that can subpoena that person to testify. Now, y'all see why I keep saying this? And God good. Judge Mathis's concern is being addressed by a grand jury because now they can subpoena whomever the young lady was on the phone to come in and testify to that. Look at God. See there? That's why we have a grand jury.
That's what the prosecutor may have all of this information and say, we're not sharing it because we don't want to bias. We don't want to create bias, and et cetera,
Yeah,
in the case because in the media, and she may have that. She may have that and take it right to the grand jury. That's what I'm hoping. If they don't disclose it to the widespread media this week.
Yeah, I don't know how you can justify that audio.
Can't.
Yeah.
Not with someone in the background saying, is he dead?
Subpoena her.
Even if you were calling to say there was a fight. It sounds like you're looking at something that has already happened and you witnessed what happened and you're saying, did he die from what I just saw? That's what you're saying. Oh, is he dead? Or what? Somebody walked you from around the park and said, hey, or around the other boat dock and say, hey, come look at this. No, you were there. So if that video and audio is correct, it's a whole nother level of evidence that indicates culpability.
And just for clarity, what do you personally believe happened to Nolan Wills?
Well, what we're told is that he got on the boat with several white buddies in Mississippi, went to Fun Island, for lack of a better term, where everybody goes to this island to have fun on their boats. Overwhelmingly 90 to 100% white, 99.9 perhaps if you include Nolan. And his buddies say they left him there. He ends up dead. His buddies say we left him there and we told him to come, let's go. He refused to go. However, we had his phone, and you claim that everybody puts their phone away when they're on the island. And I don't believe that for 1 minute, that teenagers leave their phones for hours just because they're on the island.
I don't believe that either, because mines don't put that down. And I mean, I'm talking about at the wave pool. They want to have their phones in the wave pool. Like, are you serious? I have to tell mine to put the phones down. Just put the phone down for an hour, take a shower, brush your teeth, gargle. Just put the phone down. Like, seriously. They want to take their damn phones to a wave pool. You can't make this stuff up. They make these phone cases. You can put your phone in and just wear the little thing around your neck so you can go to the pool and still have your phone. Like, these kids, it's like they have anxiety or separation withdrawal or something if they can't have their phones. They go nuts. So we've seen videos and photos of people out there recording, live streaming, at the beach. I've seen videos of people recording and live streaming in the boat, on the water. I mean, that's water doesn't stop people nowadays with cell phones, especially you talking about 18, 19-year-olds that are, just addicted to social media now. No, they'll be in the water with that phone. You kidding me? And the fact that we see videos and photos of people in the water taking pictures and videos is proof that they will not leave their phone. No matter how much we want them to put it down. That's not the time where a parent wants their child to put a phone down while you're somewhere on an island and you don't have a boat. Nope. Keep that damn phone on you.
What's the relationship there? You don't want to drop it in the sand, or the water. You can drop it in the water.
Got a little phone
Nonetheless,
now you can put around your neck.
And then, of course, them not returning the phone to his mother.
Yeah, and
time they arrived back. Them not reporting him missing to his parents or their own parents. Then
patchy reception.
We have the young lady, Katie, who he allegedly stayed back to be with. Her sister says that they weren't spending a lot of time with Nolan and that they also left without Nolan, meaning they had seen Nolan go somewhere when they were leaving. Did y'all just shake, hug, and walk away? And then someone saw him and said, hey, let's get with him because he kissing and hugging on that white woman and we don't play that and don't want to play that?
Oh, Lord.
Or is it, as I think it is, that they had something to do with his drowning and they've come up with a variety of alibis that don't make sense. And so I believe they had something to do with his drowning, or certainly some knowledge of it. They have knowledge of it at the very least.
Well, that's why
Sir, that was not the question. Is there a person?
That's why they got a grand jury, y'all. Grand jury will subpoena them to come and testify before them. Hearing that call, I don't think all of them are real. But the one or two that called the calls from the dispatcher in, that'll be the one they pull. Because, see, you got to realize the grand jury is not going to just, they're not going to even want to listen and watch all these videos if there's a question of its authenticity. So this is why they're saying, hey, we're paying a bounty for raw, unedited footage. Because it has to be raw, unedited. That way it can be vetted and authenticated properly. Because otherwise, you could be listening to something made by AI. It could be a fake. And you can't put that in, put that in court. You can't present that to a grand jury. It will not be admitted as evidence. So it has to be authenticated. Audio and video evidence has to be authenticated. So they always want the raw, unedited footage. And there were a few people out there recording. They make these phones now. You can put it in a plastic case that's waterproof, or the phones are more waterproof. These kids find a way to make sure they can keep their phone on them in the water. You'd be surprised. It's just unfortunate. I think the biggest headache is no one knows exactly what happened, and there's not enough cameras out there. This can't be the same one we listened to last weekend.
A living individual on the boat.
There's lots of people breathing on the boat.
A new audio recording from the Nolan Wells case captures the chaos on the water the day the 18-year-old disappeared off Mississippi's Horn Island. And now we're hearing the frantic distress call. The United Cajun Navy is also firing back at attorney Ben Crump over a major claim. And also there's this decision by prosecutors to keep a key piece of evidence under wraps for now that is telling a lot about where this investigation may go. I'm going to break down every new development in this story. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, we're back with a lot more that has happened since we last updated you on the case of Nolan Wells. I think the last time we updated you was when the results of that independent autopsy were released, which, by the way, came out. They couldn't rule out foul play, so it leaves Nolan's family still demanding answers. There's still, of course, the state medical examination and the toxicology reports and what will come of that. But now what do we have? We have new audio that has been released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, and it is giving us a glimpse into some of the chaos that was occurring on the water on that fateful July 4th day. One of the first pieces of audio that we're hearing from that day captures what appears to be the frantic moments as a boat that Nolan had potentially been on that day that was connected to this group began taking on water. And we've got the full call. We're going to unpack it for you. But first, just listen to this.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come?
Yes. How far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
So that's what I've been talking about. That is the sound of what appears to be panic as the boat was taking on water. But there is one thing that we're trying to figure out. Where was Nolan Wells? Where was Nolan Wells when that was happening? Was he on the boat? Was he already off the island? We don't know. It's one of the many gaps that we're still trying to piece together in the timeline. And what we're hearing is just one piece of this overarching puzzle. Nolan's friends are talking now. We're going to tell you what they said in these interviews. The United Cajun Navy, that was part of the search efforts for Nolan, they are firing back at attorney Ben Crump, who's representing Nolan Wells' family right now.
Oh, what did he say
They're
now?
disputing a key detail and making a shocking claim about what they've actually discussed, or rather, what they haven't discussed. The DA, the district attorney, is planning a move that's going to change when we'll get a look at the results of the state's autopsy. So a lot is happening. I want to get into it all. But first, let me just make sure everybody's on the same page with this if you haven't been following the case from the beginning. So we're talking about 18-year-old Nolan Wells. He was from Ocean Spring, Mississippi. He was a college student, football player. On the 4th of July, he went with a group of friends to Horn Island. It's a barrier island off the Mississippi coast. It's really isolated. There's no like commercial developments or anything like that. Going there to celebrate. At some point, he disappeared. He was reported missing that night. A massive search was launched. And then 2 days later, on July 6th, his body was found on the island. But what happened to him? That remains the central question. That remains a question that nobody, at least publicly, can seem to answer or has answered. The results of the family's independent autopsy listed Nolan's cause and manner of death as undetermined. And remember, the family seemingly being distrustful of law enforcement or suspicious or maybe critical that the first impressions of what happened to Nolan were there were no signs of foul play. This seemed to be accidental drowning. They seemed to want more answers or a second opinion. So they hired Ben Crump. They ordered an independent autopsy. And this pathologist found that pieces of Nolan's body, we're talking portions of his neck, throat, had been removed by the state medical examiner, because the state medical examiner did the first autopsy. Again, we don't have the results. So it had been removed by the state medical examiner before this second autopsy could be done. So this second pathologist couldn't determine whether there was in fact injury or trauma to the neck. And that leaves many questions still on the table. It raises a question, if the state ME is doing further testing of those components, can the state ME definitively conclude there was trauma, that this was drowning accidental or not? Maybe it's tough to say if it's accidental or not, given those watery conditions.
Have y'all ever heard, I'm just going, because I don't know why this just popped up in my head. Have any of you ever heard of the concept of dry drowning? Hit the phone. Have y'all ever heard of that? Well, it's taking me back to school. So I went to school for biology pre-med. Wanted to be a doctor, particularly a pediatrician neonatologist. It's one of the concepts that's not necessarily a diagnosis, but it has some severe effects and consequences, just like it would be if you are drowning. Dry drowning. Symptoms in teenagers. Now, he was 18, 19, even for strong swimmers. I think this is like one conclusive concept that anyone could be subjected to, even if you are a strong swimmer. Dry drowning is not a formal medical diagnosis, but the concern is real. After a water incident, some teenagers can develop delayed breathing problems that require urgent medical care. I'm just asking, what if this is what he experienced? Until we see the autopsy results. Because the autopsy results is going to tell me a lot more, right? Along with toxicology results. Dry drowning also does not have to be with water. So let's say he got drunk, hypothetically. Follow me. And while he's vomiting, some of the vomit went into the lungs and created this dry drowning effect. And then he would have, but see, he was found deceased 2 days later. So you go out and you swim, or he gets drunk, somehow fluid gets backtracked into the lungs. Or there's some sort of dry drowning effect. Yeah, exactly. Because that can happen. So he necessarily didn't drown, but maybe some water got in the lungs or backflow of vomit. They were drinking beer. If he was inebriated and intoxicated in the water, even as a strong swimmer, there's a chance he could have just aspirated either alcohol or the ocean water or both. Any fluid can cause that effect of dry drowning. Y'all ever thought about that? Because I don't know how this just came up. I just pulled it up. Just now, it came across my mind. The symptoms are so similar to drowning that it's hard to really distinguish. And it can happen with basically any fluid. It's not necessarily just water. So medical experts now call these cases non-fatal drowning or submersion event where breathing impairment occurs sometimes with little or no water in the lungs. So if, let's say, the ME reviewed the lungs and said there was no water in it, and he is a great swimmer, but if it's a non-fatal drowning, you might not see any water in the lungs. That doesn't mean that it did not cut the air supply off. Symptoms can appear within hours, often up to 8 hours after the incident, and in some cases up to 24 hours. It doesn't take long for this to happen. After a near drowning, water inhalation or submersion, watch for these symptoms. Difficulty breathing or shortness of breath. You're getting out in the water, and let's say you're already intoxicated. Everything's working slow. Breathing, your ability to react, think quick, is going to be suppressed. Fast, shallow, or labored breathing. Visible chest retraction. See, we don't know exactly what kids were saying in the background other than, is he dead? What if he was heaving? Persistent or worsening cough beyond the immediate post-incident period. Chest pain or discomfort. Unusual sleepiness, drowsiness, or irritability. If you're out here, you already inebriated. You're drinking alcohol and stuff like that. And then this effect happens, that can make you even more drowsy. Maybe the impairment caused him to not, because I can't understand why anyone in their right frame of mind would want to leave their phone and keys on a boat and then they stay behind on a beach. Nope. So if he got drunk, maybe he passed out. I'm exploring all areas. Even if they told him, come on back, If he's cognitively impaired, then what? Unusual sleepiness or drowsiness, and you're out there in the ocean. Confusion, because saying I want to stay behind and leave my phone and keys on a boat, you're definitely confused. For 18, 19 years old? Hell no. So now you have this impaired thinking where it will be highly unusual of his behavior and character. Confusion, mood changes, or behavioral shifts. Vomiting, pale or bluish skin, lips, fingertips, a sign of low oxygen. What if this was a possibility? I'm not saying it was. This is what if it was a possibility. Risk is highest in the first 8 hours after incident. Even if he could swim, like I said, this could happen to anybody. Like this has happened to me. Do not wait for symptoms to worsen. Early medical evaluation is safer. Any breathing difficulty after water exposure is an emergency. So if you're impaired and you experience these symptoms, but then you have no water in the lungs, there's a chance that this could have been one of these non-fatal drownings. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just throwing out an option that could explain some of the symptoms while it has not, we don't know what the ME's autopsy report said. And it could justify why they kept part of the throat and neck. And I think they kept the lungs. Did they not? Did they keep the lungs? Did we? I know we read that. The independent report. I think they did keep his lungs. Yeah, they kept the lungs. Okay, cool. So lungs and stomach, I believe. So they kept the throat, lungs, and stomach. And because the stomach could tell you if he vomited, you'd be able to discern that by looking in the, what the contents were in his stomach. And if they're out there drinking, they barely eating, you don't have anything to absorb all that alcohol, at some point somebody gonna vomit. I don't understand beer. Like it's so gross. Beer is nasty. That's me. Some people out here love beer. I can't take the taste. Ugh. Now let's see here. Mindy sent us some information on X. Oh, Sarah Fields is a national treasure. Hold on. She is good. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to tag some of your posts, Mindy. And we're praying for you, girl. And your family. Of course we are. Okay, hold on. Okay, I want to make sure I got it all. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to tag all the stuff in here. All right, cool. I think I got them all. All right, let's move over to X right quick. From Sarah Fields. Now the wife of the woman are exposed for being a fake audio engineer and manipulating the audio by creating a fake script from the CETO audio tied to Nolan Wells case is announcing that they're going to attempt to sue me. What? Wait, what did they do? I tell y'all, some of these calls out here sound like they fake, man. They gotta listen. These videos and audio calls, they have to be authenticated either way. So if she's out here faking something, she's not gonna get away with it. She is not gonna get away with it. You can't make this stuff up. So they want to sue her for what? For something that she might have been sparing you from what the jury can do to you. Are you kidding? Oh my God. If they get the audio call, it will be from the dispatcher. They'll be able to get the raw call, the audio, from the dispatcher. They're not going to get it from all the people that called them. They're going to get it from the dispatcher. All calls are recorded going to a dispatcher, especially for emergency service. So they will get it from the dispatcher. They're not going to get it from whoever the kid was that called them. Oh, Lord, you got all these fake calls going on. They have also started a give, send, go and have set the goal to $50,000. Oh, my God. Do they not realize if you sit and you tamper with an audio call, that is obstruction and interference. That's a felony. What are they thinking? That is a crime. She gonna go to jail. She might want to be glad. What can back this up? She might want to be glad that Sarah Fields called her out on it, because that's a felony. That is a whole felony. Oh my God. Good luck with that. I know, right? What do you mean? 50,000, man. Oh, I'm so mad. I'm starting to give, send, go today. You understand me? You can't make this stuff up. So they get this set up a goal for $50,000 because Sarah Fields is actually sparing this person from catching obstruction charges for tampering with an audio call to emergency services. Is she crazy? Oh my sweet Jesus. You hit all the parts. Spread misinformation for clicks, get exposed, play victim, go for the money grab. God, you cannot successfully sue someone for reporting the truth. And you certainly don't strengthen your case by responding with actual defamatory statements about me and my family, which is exactly what she did. Oh my God. She's not a licensed audio engineer. Her business is non-existent. And their health business license is inactive while they continue to sell products illegal in Texas. You're about to learn very quickly how this works, and I have the perfect attorney for the job, even if you try. If you even try. Here is the actual reality. These women will likely receive a cease and desist from one of the many boys that they have defamed and targeted. It will likely be next in my reporting. This is the nonsense that no one has time for. Oh my God. So they give, oh my God, they're trying to sue her over this. First of all, you cannot tamper with audio calls going, to emergency services. That's like someone tampering with a 911 call to police. You cannot do that. That is illegal. If anything, they need to just count their lucky stars and go sit down somewhere. What is wrong with these people? This is the nonsense that no one needs. This right here, the death threats to judges, this is some bull. No one needs this crap clouding in the pursuit of justice for Nolan Wells. Unbelievable. Oh my God, she gonna sue them right back. If they sue Sarah Fields will file a counterclaim. Then what? You can't make this stuff up. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so this is the On the day of his funeral, Nolan Wells' parents sent notice to his friends and families of intention to sue them. On top of that, moments after laying her son to rest, Nolan Wells' mother opened his estate to pursue potential claims surrounding his death. Nolan Wells' friends who have faced accusations were heartbroken to miss his funeral. However, due to death threats and out of respect for Nolan's family, they made the difficult decision not to attend. Jesus. So this is a letter that went out for preservation of evidence. Letter representation, notice of duty to preserve evidence, spoliation. Spoliation. This firm. Okay, I see it. Oh, God. So they cite case law to support this preservation letter. And also under state and federal law. The destruction or failure to preserve evidence may be deemed spoliation by a trial court and may result in sanctions, adverse evidentiary rulings, or a negative inference jury instruction at trial. Mississippi law recognizes that the destruction or failure to preserve relevant evidence after litigation is reasonably foreseeable, may constitute spoliation, may warrant appropriate sanctions or adverse evidentiary consequences. Thomas v. Isle of Capri Casino is a 2001 case. Oh God, because this matter is may be litigated. Wait, what? Because this matter is may be litigated. Y'all see this? Well, it's the broken English. Because this matter is maybe. We need to show you where it says unbelievable. Yeah, we're gonna get it up and going. I'm gonna try to do some designs today. Get the merch shop up. Oh my God. It certainly will. She's giving them like a heads up. Giving them a heads up, a notice, doing them a favor. Yes, Nolan Wells' mother is biracial and half Filipino. Nolan Wells is actually mixed race. For some odd reason, this was not reported in news segments or even online or on YouTube initially. Oh, really? I didn't know that. So the Give Sing Go is being set up by two different women that want to sue Sarah Fields for calling out the audio being tampered with. Because, you could just get the original audio call from the dispatcher and compare it to what they put out. Because that's exactly what the grand jury will do. You can't make this up. That will be considered obstruction of justice and interference. Absolutely. You're tampering with evidence that the jury should be hearing. Y'all see how this kind of literally goes against the idea of seeking justice. Can't say we want justice for Nolan Wells, but we're going to tamper with all the audio calls. No, leave it alone. Like, oh God. She's doing him a favor because they could be facing felony charges. Y'all see this? Did no paralegal read this and correct this? Because this matter may be litigated in federal court. It's the broken grammar. Recipients are further advised that the preservation of electronically stored information is governed by Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 37C. Is that C or E? I didn't make that as blurry. It looks like a C. I could be wrong. Oh, no, it's E. 37E, which authorizes the court to impose appropriate measures when relevant. ESI that should have been preserved is lost because a party failed to take reasonable steps to preserve it, and the information cannot be restored or replaced through additional discovery. So in other words, here are laws, preserve the evidence, you're going to need it, the end. That's that. And it's a standard preservation letter. It's the same thing that Stu Peters got hit with, and then he turned around and said in the whole video, he's going to destroy everything. Yeah, good luck to that. You're going to go to jail. That's clear obstruction. So preserving evidence is crucial by law. We have federal and state laws that support that request. I just think that they're acting very prematurely with this lawsuit thing when, and this is just me, I would rather have the grand jury get out subpoenas to have people come in and testify. That way it's addressed properly and they cannot avoid it. Am I missing anything, Mindy? Thank you for the post, honey. Let me go back and make sure I got everything covered because I wanted to share all the information that we had updated. Oh, okay. And then there's something from a mortician. Hold on. So Sarah Fields reported, I spoke with my mortician friend again today and sent her the photos. When was this? This was done on July 22nd. So it was over a week ago. Photos from Nolan's independent autopsy, asking for her professional opinion. She gave me permission to quote her, pressure from an autopsy headrest or positioning device could definitely leave a temporary pressure mark or area of discoloration, particularly on a recently deceased body. During an autopsy, the head is commonly supported in a cradle or head block to keep the head and cervical spine stable while the examination is performed. The location and shape of the discoloration are consistent with the type of pressure artifact that can occur when a head is supported on an autopsy headrest or positioning device. Pressure artifacts are a recognized part of postmortem examination, so this finding alone does not establish trauma or foul play. Plus, there was no, it was just a deep tissue. There was no skull fractures at all noted. Instead of having qualified forensic pathologists explain which findings were routine, expected, or insignificant, Crump read graphic portions of the report himself in a way that sensationalized normal postmortem findings and implied they were evidence of foul play. Yeah, and you don't want to do that when it comes to the general public, because the question is, what would the reasonable, sane person in their right mind gather from that information? Does it make sense? So if I'm reporting on something as an independent journalist, the way I read something to present something can affect the way people understand it. So as opposed to him just letting someone else read the information and ensure that for continuity, the results of it being inconclusive or undetermined were just as reiterated as this discoloration on the back, he could have done that. Because otherwise it can become biased and you don't want to shape the perception based on how you read something. Because if I read it in a way to where you all think, oh man, that's a serious thing, like with the dry drowning, I said that could be an option or a possibility. I don't know. But now if that becomes a possibility, you guys know what it is. And you know that the symptoms could be parallel to the effects of drowning itself. The difference is there could be little to no water in the lungs. So I read that so that people can just understand this is a viable option. But it's not to say that this is concrete. He read it like, yep, this is definitely some trauma. It's like, no, what does that mean? I was like, what does that mean? So unfortunately, everybody is not going to go back and fact check or Google everything when they're out here doing these videos and stuff. They're going to read it in the same manner where it comes off, like you're saying conclusively, this is what it is. And that's not necessary when you're talking about independent journalism. That's never necessary. So I'd rather give you all the facts and the information than to sensationalize shit, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, Lady Luck Club was wrong. You came out and saying all this, and that wasn't even the case. So that's what. Plus, this is a serious situation. A child lost his life. I just, yeah. Somehow the victim still gets lost in the fray with all this stuff. The result was entirely predictable, considering what we have already seen online. Routine findings from a secondary autopsy were presented as though they were shocking revelations, creating questions that often have straightforward forensic explanations. Rather than informing the public, Crump fueled speculation and encouraged people to fill in the gaps with assumptions instead of evidence. He accomplished exactly what he set out to do. Yeah, all you got to do is test that theory and tell him, yeah, we're not paying you out of this $850,000 damn dollars we raising. Can't make this up. All right, we'll listen to a little bit more of this, and then that'll wrap it up.
And then there's that red discoloration in the back of the head, which we talked about last time. According to medical experts I spoke to, it could be from decomposition. It could be a blunt injury before death, because when I spoke with Dr. Nada Rutherford, she said that the body doesn't bruise like that after death. But let's start unpacking now what we're now learning, what's new. So the Mississippi Department of Resources released a recording of a distress call made on July 4th from a boat near Horn Island, which we believe Nolan was on at some point during that day. We don't know for sure who made this call, but it does offer us a look into what was unfolding out there on the water that day, including the boat sinking, the kids panicking, and again, where is Nolan? Now, before I play this audio, just something to keep in mind. I first saw this from TMZ, Charles Lapotier, basically said that there's a conversation happening online that in this audio, in the background, you can possibly, arguably hear, is he dead? Nolan. Oh my God. Very difficult to make out. I leave it to you. Let me just play this. I don't know if it's going to be part of a conversation, but here you go.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you? And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's
How
on
many?
board.
All right. Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
What?
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right. All right. Do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me go look. 46.72. Okay, my coordinates are 30 degrees by 14.684 north, and then west by 88 degrees by 46.79.
All right. How many adults and children on board?
No, there's no children.
So is there anybody on board? How many adults, sir? That was the question.
Gotta jump in and pull the plug while you're going.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yep, I just need you to answer these questions so I can get you over to the captain.
Okay.
How many
what's
adults
going
on board?
There are 0 adults on board.
There's nobody on board the boat?
No. Nobody
right.
here is over the age of 21.
Sir, that was not the question. Is there a person? Is there a person, a living individual on the boat?
Yes, there's lots of people breathing on the boat.
All right. How many people, sir?
Like 7.
The dispatcher then transfers the call to a captain.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Is everyone breathing on the boat? Your answer should be what now? How many people are breathing on the boat? What should the answer have been? All of them, right? The answer should have been all of them. Because I don't understand that.
Yes, there's lots of people breathing on the boat.
All of them should be breathing on the boat. All of them. Yeah, no, dispatch, we have 7 people breathing here. Okay, how many people on there total? It's 8. Well, 7 are breathing. Come on, man.
All right. How many people, sir?
Like 7.
The dispatcher then transfers the call to a captain.
They need cameras on board.
All right. Yeah, I just actually got off the phone with his grandpa, who I'm guessing is the owner of the boat. And he said, I just hung up with him. He said that they don't need any help right now, but if something changes, he'll call me back. So I'm guessing that they may have figured it out, because that's what he said. So they're in a panic and their boat won't crank.
Now, as I said before, we don't exactly know where Nolan was at this point. But according to reporting from WLOX, this distress call was made around 4 p.m. And according to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office and other accounts that we've heard, Nolan was apparently last seen around 3 p.m. So it places this call at just about an hour after someone would have last had eyes on him. But I want to talk about what happened since that press conference, because if you watched our previous episode, you might remember that we talked about this moment, this big detail that attorney Ben Crump shared about how Nolan was found.
The United Cajun Navy are so forthcoming. The fact that they told us we haven't heard from any of their...
Ow! What the heck is going on with the sound?
Well, that's...
What?
He put on a shirt.
That cannot be my video. Oh my God.
People, somebody.
Yeah, that's making my nerves itch.
Sir, that was not the question. Is there a person, a living...
I can't take it.
You know something.
That's his video. Oh my God. Oh, it's like scratching the chalkboard. Y'all ain't making my inner ears itch. What the hell? No. Ooh, what's wrong with their mics? Why is this happening?
Forth at 2:23 p.m., so a little under 40 minutes before Nolan was last seen, appears to show an individual, a man. There's an argument that that could be Nolan wearing blue swim trunks and shirtless. And we remember there was a photo of Nolan Wells that had been circulated from that day wearing those trunks with his friends. So Crump was raising the question of whether anyone saw anything in between when he was without a shirt, like here, if this is him, and allegedly when he claims he was later fully clothed. Here's the problem. The problem is that the United Cajun Navy says they never told Crump he was fully clothed, and they are firing back at his initial claim. They're now coming for him. On July 26th, they wrote on X,
I don't know no attorney that wear this type of jacket, y'all. It's sharp now, but it look expensive. Look at that jacket. Y'all see the imprint on it? Shabu. Ben Crump, send me $50,000. I know you got it.
For him. On July 26th, they wrote on X, did attorney Crump lie about UCN? Yes. He said UCN told us Nolan was fully clothed. Not true. We have never spoken with Crump, and we certainly didn't tell the parents anything like that. Now, here's where it gets a little confusing, because this fully clothed claim doesn't actually originate with Ben Crump. No, the president of the United Cajun Navy, Todd Terrell, was on a July 20th episode of Crime Stories with Nancy Grace and said yes to a question about Nolan being fully clothed. But Terrell seemingly later corrected himself, saying Nolan was clothed, meaning he wasn't naked. He was wearing swim trunks, and that, yes, he should have been clearer. So the Cajun Navy mentioned that in this X post, writing, quote, did the UCN president get taken out of context during an interview? Yes. His definition of fully clothed meant not being naked, wearing swim trunks. It doesn't matter what anybody else thought it meant. It only matters what Todd meant because he said it. The bottom line is that Nolan was wearing only swim trunks when found. That's a fact that can't be refuted. This is a manufactured distraction to divert attention from this press conference blunder. So that's the dispute with the United Cajun Navy. But now I want to talk about the key figures in this case who are now speaking out. Nolan's purported friends. They sat down for lengthy interviews with conservative commentator Brandon Tatum on the Officer Tatum Show. What they're saying is adding even more layers to all of this. So, for example, first up, Trayston Shepard, described as one of Nolan's best friends. However, there's been some commentary that Nolan's family has maybe publicly disputed this. But here's what he spoke about with Officer Tatum. So he spoke about the moment that he learned that Nolan's body had been found, saying, quote, I was putting fuel in our boat at 6. I got told that they were taking out another boat to Chandelier at 7. So I put my boat back on the lift, and I went to McDonald's, and then I got the news after I left McDonald's that his body was found. He says he had nothing to do with Nolan's death and that he has been living with guilt ever since, saying, quote, I beat myself up every night I lay down, beat myself up anytime it crosses my mind, because in my head, if I wasn't drinking, if I didn't get into that altercation.
Okay, so here's my question, and let's be realistic here. Why aren't these kids being charged with drinking underage? I'm just, underage drinking is illegal. Why is that not problematic with law enforcement right now? Because I would not be able to get away with that at all. How they buy it? Like he literally just said we were out drinking. This kid literally said that himself. This is why you don't listen. Teach your kids, even if they're 18 by law, they're legal adults, but they're not 21. So who purchased the alcohol for them? Or did he just go out there and it was just there and they just went into a cooler and grabbed it? How did that go? Is that one of these events where you bring your own beer or something? Because that should be like a problem for all of them. Anybody that was under 21 drinking alcohol. I mean, that's laws are laws. We can't just ignore it because it's his friends. No. He shouldn't have been drinking either. None of them should have been drinking. I literally teach my boys you can't get near alcohol until you're 21. I don't even want to see you sitting at a bar. He literally said, if I wasn't drinking, and no one says that if you're just drinking some water or some Kool-Aid. So he told on himself. Where is his attorney? I thought they had attorneys. When y'all attorneys tell you all, please don't go out and do a media press tour. Don't take interviews. Listen to your attorney. They know best. He should not have went out and did this interview. Because he literally told on himself. And Tatum said nothing about the drinking, the underage drinking. I'm a fuss because I'm a mama. And Mama Bear is going to fuss when I see any child under 21 drinking alcohol to the point of inebriation. You should not have been drinking, period. Who bought the damn alcohol? There has to be some consequence for that because I don't think that this would be, permitted in any other scenario. I'm sorry. Laws are laws.
Apparently there was an altercation that day, not involving Nolan, but involving him. Maybe I would be able to do something. Yep. Maybe I would have told Nolan, hey, man, you're not going with that girl. Just come back with us. Maybe it just plays out different. So, yes, he's talking about this altercation that he says happened on the island, this apparent fight with a stranger that got so intense that he claims his uncle made him get back on the boat and leave. And regarding the girl comment, that's interesting because this is what he says was the last thing he told Nolan that day. Quote, all right, buddy, I love you. See you later. I'm glad I said it. I had been under the influence a little bit, and that's probably why I did say it at the time. Just, getting all lovey-dovey. But I'm at peace. I said it. Another friend, Warren Hudson, also spoke out, was interviewed, talked about the phone, the keys, the night everything unraveled. According to Hudson, they were in an emergency situation. They needed to leave quickly, which is why they wanted to get Nolan on board. And he said, quote, Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. Now, this whole back and forth about whether Nolan stayed on the island to talk to a girl, Nolan's family has indicated from the very beginning it would be very unlike him to leave his friends. And this is of note, too. According to People, Nolan's mom, Christine Wonsley, said in a prior interview with the Griot, this is weeks back, that this young lady that Nolan was apparently talking to contacted her. She said in the interview, quote, she did reach out to me initially just saying basically like it was a hey and bye type situation. So it's not entirely clear, did he follow this girl? How long were they together? How long were they talking? And look, one of the biggest outliers in all of this, why people have a lot of questions, is no matter what happened to Nolan, no one saw anything. No one saw him drowning, if that's the case. Now, look, we don't know exactly what's being told to law enforcement, what's being told to Ben Crump and his team, but that's a big question. So here's where the phone comes in, okay? So Nolan's family has raised concerns about content being deleted. And remember, the phone was left behind on the boat, apparently. The family has indicated they used a Life 360 app to locate Nolan's phone, and they got custody of it from his friends. But they also said that they found it strange that he would leave the phone behind if he was planning to stay on the island. But Hudson said this, quote, "There was no reason for us to get on Nolan's phone. No one touched Nolan's phone. No one even was in contact with his phone until it was moved from the boat to the truck. And none of us have access to Nolan's password to get on his phone and delete anything. We had no reason to delete anything. There's nothing to hide here." And there's been a conversation about maybe he wouldn't take his phone because you're entering into salt water. Maybe that's common when you're boating. Now, Hudson also clarified the timeline because the last time he claims he saw Nolan was around 3 p.m. on July 4th. And he claims he saw Nolan in the water with a girl. Said, quote, "I looked at Nolan and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing. And I was like, dude, you crazy." Now, both Shepard and Hudson denied having anything to do with Nolan's death, okay? But now I want to talk about another update.
But this is why you don't do these damn interviews if you claim you have attorneys. Look at the level of confusion. I mean, if I hire my kids an attorney, that's it. My only statements are going to come from their attorneys. Otherwise, what's the point? You got one out here admitting to underage drinking. The other one is like not really saying anything that's worthy of an interview. He could have literally just said, you know what, I'm going to just save everything that I have for the grand jury. Now you all understand why Mama Bear Lady Luck said, don't go out to interviews when you have an attorney. It's not a good idea. They're just telling on themselves.
Update that's impacting the investigation itself. Just last week, the DA, district attorney, Angel Myers McElrath, made an announcement confirming the state's official autopsy report.
Was he real? Okay.
It's being weighed. It won't be released to the public until a grand jury reviews it. That's significant. Grand jury being impaneled to determine if criminal charges are warranted. And the DA made this clear when speaking with WLOX, saying, quote, "Every death in the county, except those of natural causes and non-criminal car wrecks, is presented to your grand jury. Many people don't know that we have handled death investigations in this manner my entire career." She also said her office is handling the investigation the same way as all others, telling WLOX, "The pressure for answers does not change what the work requires. Our responsibility to Nolan and our community is to complete this investigation thoroughly and carefully without compromise, supported by the evidence and worthy of the confidence of the people we serve. Our restraint in communicating facts and evidence is not an effort to keep the truth from the public. It is an effort to protect the integrity of this investigation and the grand jury proceeding." And that would make sense because if you have information out there, will it affect other witnesses' accounts, witness testimony? Could they change the narrative at all? Could it affect potential grand jurors being impaneled? You want to keep everything as buttoned up as possible while this is an ongoing investigation. Now, she also addressed the flood of misinformation that has been swirling online, saying, quote, "If we sacrifice the integrity of the process in an effort to satisfy today's questions, we risk undermining confidence in tomorrow's answers." Here's the thing. DA says this is standard procedure. Nolan's family has been frustrated by the lack of transparency from the very beginning. They've called on local officials to be more forthcoming. They've made it clear they don't trust the investigation is being handled maybe properly. And as for when that grand jury will convene, the DA hasn't said. So for now, we're waiting to see what happens.
And here's why you don't want to know. Here's why you don't always know when the grand jury is going to convene or even be selected. Because you don't want any evidence of tampering or intimidation or harassment or for them to get death threats. So oftentimes, grand jury, it doesn't operate the way people think when it comes to these types of cases in this phase of a criminal investigation. Especially where they're trying to determine if there's enough probable cause to warrant an indictment, to bring forth charges to the court. I don't want to know when they're going to come together. I just want them to do it. Because if that's out there, people out there are going to try to find out who they are and send them death threats and intimidate them and harass them. And then we never get to the grand jury phase where they're seeing the evidence to determine if criminal charges are warranted. Typically, you don't know when that's happening. It's not an announcement. You typically don't know until they bring forth an indictment. So I really hope they don't release that and they keep that under wraps, just like they sealed the autopsy report from the ME. Everything else should be done, in secrecy when it comes to selection and when they're convening. You want to keep them out of the media, out of the spotlight as much as possible. Otherwise, we get nowhere. And then, who's to say who's going to be selected here and what they've been exposed to? So, oh my God, there's a reason why we have to let things go the right way, people. I just hope no one really knows so they don't have to worry about death threats. Can't make this up.
Next. We've been on top of this from the very beginning. We will continue to stay on top of it to see that this family gets the answers that they need. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar.
Awesome. And that's the same thing I want. I want to be done the right way. So whatever occurs, it will be hard for anyone to come back and say, well, no, this happened here and this happened here. And, well, we weren't given a fair opportunity in this or that. Nope. Keep it fair. People out here tampering with audio calls to dispatchers and all this stuff. Then they got the audacity to say they're going to sue somebody and raise $50,000. What you mean? Why is that important right now? It's like, oh, man. Ben Crump out here already trying to get them to just go ahead and file that wrongful death lawsuit. Can you let the grand jury do what they're supposed to do? Like, he knows that would be best. It's just, I guess he don't care. You can't make this up. He's becoming a headache to me. I'm being honest. He's a headache right now because he's bringing all this extra attention. He's no different than all these other fake ass activists running around here talking about justice for somebody. How is that happening again? Because the justice that we want is the justice that will come through the court of law. Let the evidence take you where it's going to take you. All this other hoopla he doing, man, come on. They got all over the place. New York and in Chicago and LA. There's nothing wrong if you want to take interviews. But it starts to muddy the waters. And people begin to create this perception. And no one needs that. So I'm just, God. Ben Crump, where are you at when it's black on black crime? You can't make this up. All right, I'm done. All right, we're going to the next live in a few minutes because I want to talk about this David the Singer case. That's going to be on the second channel, Lady Luck Club with Sweet Tea. That's where we're going to be talking about the true crime, the deep dives. And that case is dark and gory and, he's going to be in prison forever. So if you guys can, hop on over to the Lady Luck Club with Sweet Tea while we talk about the true crime case of involving the death of a 14-year-old girl, Celeste Riviera, by the singer David, D4VD, or whatever his name is, and kind of go through the latest on what's happening with that. Since the judge has said flat out, we're definitely going to a trial. So the judge has ordered a trial. There's sufficient probable cause to move forward. And that's what's happening. So tune in if you can. If you can't, I understand. Thank you all so much. Hit that like button on the way out and hype this video up. I try to be as factual as possible, but respect my mods. Respect my mods. I just don't disrespect my mods. All right. Appreciate you all. Y'all be good. Thank you all so much for the support. Make sure you check out the sources here regarding the information on the judge Cole and the Cole situation, and then of course on the dry drowning or non-fatal drowning information, because that could be a possibility. Who knows? But it so far, like scientifically, is seeming to line up. But we're ready. We're ready for that ME autopsy report, and the results of that will be concrete. So we're here for that. All right. Till the next time, you guys take care. Lady Luck Club out.